In what ways do poets fall short when trying to describe love? In what ways do poets fall short when trying to describe love? For that matter, in what way do psychiatrists fall short when trying to describe love? Or how about psychologists? Or how about Hollywood movies? How do Hollywood movies fall short when trying to describe love? How about some books or some novels? How about your family and friends? How good are they at describing love to you? How about St. Paul in our second reading to the Ephesians today? How good of a job did he describe love to you, subordinate wives? Did that really speak to your understanding, subordinate wives, of what love in your marriage is all about, subordinate wives? I mean, in what way did even St. Paul's understanding of love maybe fall short? In fact, he realized it after he had just opened that door. He was like, okay, we better save this one. So you notice how that second reading ended? And this is a great mystery. This is a great mystery. Love is a great mystery. And even though we may not fully understand love, we try to love anyway. Even though love may be hard sometimes, we try to love anyway. Or at least most people do. I'm sure there's some that just walk away from it. So hard, so difficult, so painful that they walk away from it. But the rest of us, even if we don't fully understand it, we muddle through it anyway. We try to make love work anyway. If you understand this concept of how we strive to love, even if we don't fully understand what love is, then you're going to have a better understanding of what Jesus is trying to say in today's gospel. Because the reality is, it was a hard saying. We hear in the Gospel of John, chapter 6, verse 60, many of Jesus' disciples who were listening said, "This saying is hard. Who can accept it? This saying is hard. Who can accept it?" And what was Jesus saying that was so hard? In the Gospel of John, chapter 6, verse 55 to 56, "For my flesh is true food, and my blood is true drink. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in them." Put yourself in the crowd around Jesus as he's saying this to you. My flesh is true food. My blood is true drink. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in them. Put yourself in that crowd. Do you get it? You totally understand what he's saying? Are you sitting there with, I don't understand this, Jesus. Can you help me to understand a little more what's going on here? For that saying is hard, because Jesus is trying to express to them how willing he is to give himself completely for them. Isn't that a good definition of love? To give yourself completely for others. Unfortunately, many of them didn't stick with it. As a result of this, many of his disciples returned to their former way of life and no longer accompanied him. They didn't get it. So they walked away. They walked away. And it's too bad that they didn't stick around, because if they would have stuck around, they would have been able to better understand what he was trying to say. For some did stick around. In the Gospel of John, chapter 6, verse 67 and 69, Jesus said to the 12, "Do you also want to leave?" Simon Peter answered him, "Master, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and are convinced that you are the Holy One of God." They stuck with it. They recognized that what he was saying were the words of eternal life. They recognized that he was the Holy One of God. So they stuck with it. And by sticking by his side later on, before Jesus sacrificed his very self on the cross because of his love for all, what did he say at the Last Supper? "Take this, all of you, and eat of it. This is my body. Unless you eat my flesh." And here he was explaining to them how they would be able to do that. "Take this, all of you, and drink from it, for this is my blood, the blood of the new and everlasting covenant." This is how they were going to be able to share in his blood, because they stuck with it. They were able to see what Jesus was trying to explain in a very difficult saying, because he was expressing to them such a great love that he was able to give them that blood by shedding his blood on the cross. So what's your decision? What type of person are you? If love is too difficult, if love is hard, if you don't understand it, do you just walk away? Do you just walk away? Or do you just muddle through it? How about the sayings of Jesus? If they're hard, difficult to understand, we have a choice. We have a choice. We can just walk away, or we can just muddle through it in a real sacred way and say, Jesus, I don't fully understand how this happens, but I recognize, it is a great mystery. You are sharing your very flesh with us in the Eucharist. You are sharing your very blood with us in the Eucharist, so that we can receive it and share in your eternal life. So we choose Jesus to stick with it. Isn't that what Joshua was saying? Chapter 24, verse 14 to 15. Joshua addressed the people. "If it does not please you to serve the Lord, decide today whom you will serve. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." As for me, I'm going to serve the Lord. It's not always going to be easy, may not fully understand it, but I've made a choice. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to serve the Lord. Let us all strive to stick with it, to serve the Lord, to choose to continue to follow him, to receive his very self being shared for you out of love, being shared for you out of love.